first of all, I don't know what the life is that I wanted. I don't know what you want to be comfortable and you want to have friends and you want to be, like early days, being like short, being 5 feet tall.
What if your own mother admitted she never wanted you? Not privately, not in a whisper, but openly, like it was a fact, not a wound. Now imagine living with that truth while hiding a rare medical condition that turned every step into suffering. He was offered millions to surgically change who he was, and he burned the contract. He became a Hollywood icon without ever fitting the mold. But the real story, that part has never been told until now. Join us as we dive into the details. Born unwanted. Danny Devito's life didn't start in the bright lights of LA. It started in Neptune, New Jersey in 1944, wrapped in rejection. His mother, Julia, was 40 when she had him. Tired, spent, she didn't want another child, and years later admitted it out loud. "I didn't want him," she said, "but I'm so proud of him." Those words sting even decades later. For Danny, they weren't just hurtful, they were gasoline. That early dismissal lit a fire in him that never went out. But rejection wasn't the only thing waiting at home. His father, Daniel Sr., ran a beloved candy store in Asbury Park. A kind man by day, but once night hit and the alcohol kicked in, he became a completely different person. Loud, violent, frightening. The police were called to their home at least 17 times before Danny turned 15. How do you grow up when your home turns into a battlefield each night? Danny learned to listen for the rhythm of footsteps, the clink of a bottle, the tension in a silence. He hid in closets, ran to neighbors. He survived. At just 14, he knew he had to get out. Drugs were flooding the streets. Friends were dying. 2 were dead before they even hit 16. Danny worked odd jobs, saved up $237, and convinced his parish priest to plead with his parents. He wanted to attend a prep school. He timed the conversation carefully, waiting for his father's guilt to set in during a rare sober spell. His mother, maybe still feeling the weight of those words, said yes. That moment likely saved his life. Of the 12 friends he grew up with, only 3 would make it to 25 without winding up in jail or buried. But even then, Danny was carrying a secret most people didn't know about, a rare condition called Fairbanks disease, which affected bone development. He'd never grow beyond 4 feet 10 inches, but more than that, he hurt constantly. His hips, his knees, his spine, they throbbed daily with pain that would cripple most people. In his 20s and 30s, his pain often sat at a 6 to 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. He never said a word. Instead, he powered forward. Even when filming One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he collapsed 4 times and passed it off as acting. He refused pain meds, refused pity. Quietly, he began donating money, over $12 million, to help others living with rare bone disorders. He never attached his name to the causes. He just wanted people to suffer less. Before Hollywood, before fame, Danny had another life, one most fans never knew about. He was a trained beautician, put in 1,500 hours, graduated second in his class, worked in his sister's salon, curl up and dye. He even won awards for a signature hairstyle called the Neptune Twist. What started as a way to meet girls became a passion. And one day, while styling a client's hair, her husband, who happened to be a theater producer, suggested he audition for a play. That offhand comment changed everything. He applied to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts to study makeup. But when asked to perform a monologue, he hesitated, then improvised a scene from The Rainmaker. He had no acting experience, no training, but they saw something. They offered him a scholarship. At first, he said no, went back to the salon. But 3 days later, the school called again. That second call was fate knocking twice. Against the industry, in New York, Danny lived with a roommate in a tiny cold apartment with roaches and $75 rent. The roommate? Michael Douglas. They were broke, eating beans, delivering headshots. While Douglas landed parts, Devito kept hearing no. But the friendship lasted. Years later, Douglas remembered. He insisted Devito be cast in the film he was producing. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But before that, there was darkness. Between 1967 and 1970, Danny auditioned 248 times. He booked 3 jobs. Total earnings? Less than $800. To survive, he cleaned zoo cages, parked cars, even stood still like a mannequin in clothing store windows. He lived in his VW Beetle, showered at the YMCA, and ate at soup kitchens. He once read scripts to chimpanzees to stay in practice. When he finally got a postal job offer, he nearly quit acting. That same day, the audition call came in for Cuckoo's Nest. And that changed everything. Hollywood started noticing, but they wanted to mold him, break him. Producers offered him the equivalent of $1 million today to surgically stretch his legs, restructure his face. He refused. He threw the contract into a beach bonfire. "I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself," he said, "than a second-rate version of someone else." Then came Taxi. Devito read the script and knew. He poured everything he had into the audition, including a 7-minute monologue that stunned the room. ABC balked at his height. Creator James L. Brooks threatened to walk if they didn't cast him. They relented. By episode 8, he'd received over 11,000 fan letters. Louis De Palma became iconic, rude, hilarious, unapologetic. Critics hated the character. Viewers couldn't look away. He won a Golden Globe, an Emmy, delivered the shortest acceptance speech in Emmy history. NBC tried to poach him, offered him $175,000 per episode. He turned it down. He stayed loyal. Behind the scenes, he was building more. Met Rhea Perlman in a twist of fate. She was breaking up with his roommate. Within 22 minutes, he knew. They moved in after 2 weeks, started Jersey films in secret while still shooting Taxi, kept separate dressing rooms to avoid favoritism, and they made a vow: never go more than 2 weeks without creating together. Unstoppable legacy. From the late 80s to today, Danny transformed from actor to cultural force. He directed Throw Mama from the Train, starred in Twins, co-founded Jersey Films, and backed movies like Pulp Fiction and Matilda. He acted, directed, produced, and while he entertained millions, he was in constant pain. Hollywood told him to stay silent. Don't look weak. He obeyed, until he couldn't anymore. In 2025, he went on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The jokes stopped. The smiles faded. In the second segment, things turned tense. No one knows exactly what was said, but the heat was undeniable. Devito walked off. Security stepped in, not to remove him, but to de-escalate. The internet exploded. Devito unleashed. Ooh, Danny V. Was it a meltdown, or just the truth finally breaking loose? Devito posted days later, "I stand by everything I said." Sometimes the truth isn't easy to hear, especially under the lights. Suddenly, roles were canceled. Rumors of blacklisting whispered through Hollywood's back rooms. No confirmations, no denials. But it made you wonder, how much does honesty really cost in showbiz? Danny didn't stop. He's producing a docuseries with his kids. He's still on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, playing Frank Reynolds, a role that's equal parts disgusting and legendary. He's still showing up, still pushing forward. At 79, he slid naked across a floor covered in hand sanitizer, just to make people laugh. And through it all, he never divorced Rhea, even after separating twice. They still meet at the same table in the same restaurant, still text during shows, still share a Netflix account. He's still donating. Recently gave $500,000 to the hospital where he was born. Still fighting for kids with bone disorders. Still speaking up for bodies that don't fit the Hollywood mold. Danny Devito was never supposed to make it. Not in this industry, not in this body. But here he is, still standing, still funny, still himself. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button. Drop a comment below. What shocked you? What inspired you? And if you're someone who believes Hollywood's real stories matter, subscribe to Legend Discovery. Because legends like Danny, they don't just act, they endure.